Right, let's get out to the campaign. I can't wait to talk to Trudy McIntosh. Plenty going on there with her today. Let's go there. Trudy McIntosh with the opposition leader in Sydney. Jonathan Lee's with the PM. He's in Sydney, but Trudy, I've been looking forward to talking to you all day. Another shocker for the opposition leader. I played some of the material at the top of my program, but this idea that he was going to get away in front of all of you with bringing out this folder and 2 minutes or whatever it was, flicking through, trying to find his notes and then reading out, pretending and he knew it off the top of his head. It's gone from bad to worse for him. He's a shrinking Labor man here. He's not growing into the job of Prime Minister. Give us a sense of how it played out today.
Well, Peter, this is fundamental. It adds to the narrative of what we've seen of Anthony Albanese during this campaign. It only adds fodder to the argument that the coalition is making that the Labor leader is not across his brief. Now, some argue that the questions coming from the press pack today were gotchas, but this is a central plank of Labor's policy. They are proud of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and we've heard their policy before by Bill Shorten, the minister responsible for this area. So it's a policy area that's billions and billions of dollars each year of taxpayers' money. It's forecast in the coming years to actually outstrip spending for Medicare in terms of a per-year basis. So that's why it's so fundamental to know what both leaders are actually planning to do in this area. I've been on the campaign, Peter, just a day, but it's been really interesting to see the contrast between the two leaders in terms of the pace of campaigning. It's much slower on the Labor side, and actually the numbers back this up. I've been leaked the seat-by-seat tracker here showing what both leaders have done so far in the campaign. Scott Morrison, 38 seats have been hit so far. By comparison, just 21 for Anthony Albanese. Now, yes, he was off the road for 7 days for COVID, but he's also not making the most of the days that he's either been on the road prior to that or even after. We're here in Sydney. He has not hit a marginal seat at all today. I thought the really interesting number, Peter, in terms of these comparisons, Scott Morrison's been to Parramatta 5 times. Anthony Albanese has been there 0.
So this tells me, having worked on leaders' campaigns before, they're either cocky and they think it's in the bag, or they're so risk adverse. And we saw this with Malcolm Turnbull. He knocked off at lunchtime in 2016 and lost himself 14 seats on election night. It's either they're so risk adverse that they've basically got to put their leader in cotton wool. And it'll be interesting tomorrow, after a very bad day today, what sort of rhythm and pace he has in terms of visits. Do you know where you'll be?
We are staying in Sydney because we're not checking out of the hotel, but that's as much as we know. I think an interesting factor here that I've noticed today, Peter, is we know Anthony Albanese has just come out from having COVID. It actually seems to still be having a big impact on him. I was told yesterday he went in the afternoon to have a nap. He took a big break today before heading on the national broadcaster tonight to prep, but also to rest. He does actually appear to be suffering afterwards with COVID as well. So that appears to be a factor in the campaign movements.
You're very generous. It could also be excused, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Trudy, thank you for your time. Right, the PM was in Sydney today, visiting the seat of Parramatta, as Trudy just said, and his own electorate of Cook. Travelling again as we go to air. Jonathan's in the air, so he is with us now with his file package from late this afternoon.
Peter, the Prime Minister is currently having coffee behind us in the seat of Hughes. Today was probably, though, his most combative press conference to date, as journalists pushed him to answer questions on why he isn't campaigning in seats being contested by the so-called teal independents. The Prime Minister made his 5th trip to the seat of Parramatta today, a Labor seat the coalition hopes to win. But it's other seats where moderate Liberals are at risk of losing that Scott Morrison is clearly avoiding and doesn't like to talk about.
Why haven't you spent any time in North Sydney or Wentworth, where sitting Liberals are at risk of being turfed out? Is it because your brand is toxic there?
No, I'm here in Parramatta because I'm here with the Royal Earl, Maria Kovacic, and at this campaign there's a choice. There's a choice between a Labor government and a Liberal-led government, a Liberal national government. And in this seat right here, and all the seats I'm visiting around the country, I'm particularly focused on the contest that is happening between your two alternatives for government.
The PM was also pushed to detail what he's doing to address the strained relationship with the Solomon Islands and whether his previous comments about Chinese military involvement being a red line exacerbated the issue.
When was the last time you personally spoke with Prime Minister Sogavare?
I am following very carefully the advice that I get from our security intelligence agencies in how we are responsibly managing the issues in relation to this matter. That is exactly what I'm doing.
So to call him, would that inflame it? If you called him?
Look, Prime Minister Sogavare, as Mr Howard has pointed out, has had a number of views about the relationship with Australia over a long period of time. I have had contact with him in the last few months.
The Prime Minister was more comfortable at a later event in Cogra, promising money for sporting facilities at a local footy club. Peter, the Prime Minister is still fending off questions about the RBA's rate rise. Today was supposed to be all about the creation of new small businesses. The expectation, though, is from here we leave and we go to Perth. The Prime Minister has a key lunch tomorrow and 3 marginal seats in Western Australia he knows he needs to hold on to if he's to hold on to government.